Hey guys, so I'm just getting on right now just to let you all know what is going on down in Oklahoma and all other storms across this great country of ours. But I'm going to go through a little bit of stage of Weather 101. So essentially, when we have a hot and humid day and you see all those puffy cotton looking clouds in the sky, it's called the developmenting stage. So they're a towering cumulonimbus cloud indicating rising air in the atmosphere. Usually little, if any, rain during the stage occurs, and it lasts about 10 minutes. There may be some upper cloud lightning, but not indicative of it. Now you have the mature stage, so most likely uh, time for hail, heavy rain, frequent lightning, strong winds, and tornadoes. This is the time when the storm is at its most active. So it's getting fuel, it's exhausting its energy, it's constantly being fed. Think of it like a growing toddler. It can't eat too much and it can't exhaust too much. The storm occasionally has a black or dark green appearance. It lasts on average about 10 to 20 minutes. For some storms may last much longer, so it could be like a pop-up storm. Now, the dissipating stage, which a lot of people will tell you when the sun is going down, it's losing its energy. It doesn't have the heat, the humidity, the moisture anymore. So, this is the dissipating stage where they start falling apart. You get downdrafts, downward flowing air, dominant storm. Um, Rainfall decreases in intensity and can still produce a burst of strong winds by all means, but lightning still remains a danger. So I'm going to go through this some more. So this gives you an idea on the stages. So the first stage is the cumulus stage. It reaches a height of 3 to 5 miles. So that means the base of the cloud is about 4,500 feet and reaches into the atmosphere at about 20,000 feet. And at I would say probably about 16,000 feet, you get a temperature of 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which known to us is freezing. So you have all of this warm air rushing up in, causing that uplift, that plume when you're sitting outside reading a book, relaxing, and you just watch the clouds grow and roll and things like that. And you think it's so beautiful. This is precisely what's happening. This is the beginning stages of a hypercell storm. So at 32 degrees is freezing. That is where your hail comes in. Not yet, though, because we are still at the cumulus stage. That is the beginning stage. So the blue dotted line in the middle, rising up from right to left in the middle section of this, which is the mature stage of 5 to 10 miles high in the atmosphere, reaching the top at 40,000 feet. So you have that blue dotted line, which is called FFD by meteorologists. That's called front flank downdraft. I know it's redundant. They call it a downdraft, but it is actually uplifting into the atmosphere. And on the back, you have RFD, which is that blue dotted line headed towards the ground. That is called rear flank downdraft. You see the storm re-sucking in the warm atmosphere and the moisture, and it brings up to an overshooting top, and thus hail and a mesocyclone convection is. And then on the other side, you have the dissipating stage where everything is just exhausting. This is a classic supercell. So if you look at the top, you have an overshooting top. It means it's well over 40,000 feet. And then if you think of a blacksmith, he has an anvil that he bends metal on, is exactly what the top looks like. You have a back shear to the anvil and you have a front shear to the anvil. You have a shelf cloud down here at the bottom right. That is the leading edge of the storm. And then you have the cloud base stratations. and behind that, a wall cloud and a tornado. Now, between the precipitation and the tornado, you have a clear spot. That is called the cone of silence. That's where everything just goes dead, no wind, nothing. And then all of a sudden, the tornado. And on the backside, you have a precipitation free base, and then you have the flanking line of the clouds. So that would, if you follow that flanking line of clouds, that arc right there with your mouse, if you follow that, or with your finger, that's called the RFD, the rear flanking downdraft. The reason they say precipitation free base, it is not concurrent that is exactly what happens every time, because it's not. Some people say the tornado went through and then it was all of a sudden sunny, quiet, and calm. Other people say that it was still raining, there was still hail, things like that. Some people don't even experience the cone of silence as between the wall cloud, the tornado, and the precipitation line, which the area right in front of that precipitation line, if you look above the NW, there's a clear spot. That is called the dry line. That is when the storm is moving in. You can feel the change in temperature, the change in wind velocity, and you know something's coming. So, the storm motion, say the storm motion is going northwest. You have an overshooting top. That means it's caught the jet stream at 40,000 feet. So you have the anvil. You also have the FFD, which is explained here. The FFD is a downdraft. It is a front flanking downdraft. So before the storm actually hits and you actually get wind, rain, and hail, you actually get wind. That is the exhaust coming out of the storm. Behind that, you actually have the rain and the hail. So the rain and the hail are your second warning in a storm. So if you start getting the FFD beforehand, you know storms are coming. It's building. You can see the lightning. You're getting warnings for other counties coming towards you. The FFD is your first line of defense. As soon as you start hearing or feeling that wind, then you know something's coming. You also need to state that there is a sound. Not every time that sounds like a freight train. Yes, that's actually my Aunt Kim. Yes, Kimmy, I will get to that here in a second. So the FFD is actually your first line of defense. That's your first warning coming in. As soon as you feel that temperature drop 10 to 15 degrees and you get that change of wind right away, the rain hasn't came yet, you know it's going to be a powerful storm. So essentially the FFD is followed by the rain and the hail. Then as conditions improve and the storm grows stronger, you have what's called a mesocyclonic event. And I will go into what is a mesocyclonic event here in a second. So the mesocyclonic event means that the wall cloud and the circulation before it becomes a tornado there's churning inside the supercell itself. That's the cold air and the warm air fighting each other together. And when they finally get into a tight enough battle and those wind bands get so tight, like intertwining your fingers and holding it into one big fist like you're praying, think of it that tight, and eventually produces a tornado. On the back side of that, you have the flanking line, which is the rear flank downdraft. That's the RFD. So after the tornado has gone through, you have the RFD. Now, here is a perfect example of rear flank downdrafts. You have a horseshoe cyclonic effect before the storm. These are the FFD. It's a lot tighter than you think, so that's why there's not a lot of warning time. The FFD is in front of the rear flank downdraft after the tornado. And a lot of systems, the horseshoe effect and the RFD, rear flank downdraft, is during or after the tornado, but not before the FFD, the front flank downdraft. It's very confusing, and that's why I'm trying to go into this to let people know. Wind shear and radar rotation. So it's very common for people to look at radar on their TV while it is being broadcast that there is a radar indicated tornado, and I'm going to go into this. Wind shear rotation is signified by incoming air, which is the green, and outgoing air, which is the red. So essentially, your wind shear is what's coming in from the backside of the storm, and the red is what's going from the outside of the front of the storm. When they wrap together in tighter colors, like you see this little yellow square here, that is indicative of a radar indicated tornado. Does not, by no means, does not indicate that there is a tornado on the ground. Until human eyes have actually seen a tornado on the ground, it will always be radar indicated. This just signifies that there is very, very, very tight rotation within this cell. It could be rain wrapped, which means there's heavy rain around the tornado. It's sucking it up. It's impossible to see. Or, God forbid, me being a firefighter, I will tell you the worst thing you could actually have to do is storm spot at night, because the only thing that illuminates that tornado is the lightning behind it. And sometimes it is too late. How does a tornado form? You have your cumulonimbus cloud. You have a wind shear at the top driving the storm. That is what is pushing it in the direction that it's going. And usually you have a lower atmosphere, which is the air you feel on your face, that is going in the opposite direction. It creates a lateral cyclonic effect. It causes lift in the atmosphere. So you have the red cycling up. The blue is the cold cycling down. That is the warm air on the ground being lifted into the atmosphere. The atmosphere is cooling that air and shoving it right back down. Right now it's in a lateral movement. Now you have the second stage called rising current. That's where the warm is starting to stand up a little bit in the cold into the center of the cloud. And then you have a tail stick out. That's called a funnel. So essentially you have cold air and warm air fighting each other, which produces the tornado if the bands of the wind or the wind shear have you from the last slide we did is tight enough. This is a mesocyclonic event. It's taken the core of the energy of the storm and exhausting it out through a tornado. So say it's an average day, you have a 25-mile-an-hour wind at 30,000 feet. It's creating rotation, but you also have a 5-mile-an-hour warm wind underneath. The day's fine. Clouds are just starting to build, but it's going to get a lot worse because now you start seeing, okay, there's a funnel. It's getting worse. You got that lift in the atmosphere, which is the yellow arrow here. You have touchdown. That's the hot air and the cold air. So on the far right side of that barn, there would be an FFD feeding up into this storm, which is called, again, the front flank downdraft. Then you have the storm itself, the tornado, feeding itself from the supercell. And then, like a lot of storms that are supercells in the Midwest, because of so much moisture, you have rain behind it that is driven sometimes sideways or at an angle that people are talking about afterwards. That is called RFD, rear flank downdraft. So essentially, this is what we are dealing with when we are talking about stuff going on in storms. A lot of these storms are hard to watch unless you are professionally trained. You have little, what we call spider legs or trails that come down. Those are not necessarily funnel clouds. Watch them for about 30 seconds. If they suck up, change trajectory, or just stop, those are your little spider leg or fragment clouds. If you see a pea green sky, aqua blue sky surrounded by these dark clouds, that's usually indicative of a tornado coming. There's a lot of moisture and atmosphere up there, a lot of warmth. And I'll tell you guys, living here in Iowa, what we just went through, we had about 7 inches of rain from a bow echo line, which I'll go into that some other day, but a bow echo line that went through, and it was severe weather, not to the point that it'd be tornadic, but it was severe weather in the form of lightning, high winds, and rainfall. The sun came out that afternoon. As soon as that sun broke through the clouds, it destabilized the atmosphere. Basically, it made it a breeding ground for worse storms that were already going through Nebraska and Colorado. Those were the storms we got that I had covered before when Yuma, Colorado had their tornado warning. Essentially, that same storm crossed path, but it destabilized the atmosphere and the sun came out, warmed it up, made it humid, gave it a chance to actually gain more energy. And so essentially that storm sucked everything up for that humidity and energy and then exhausted it. And it was all in a matter of 2 hours that it crossed half of the state of Iowa. It's important that people understand that if you have severe storms go through and it turns sunny, you need to actually be watching the skies. You need to be watching your weather radar. Don't wait for the last minute because it destabilizes the atmosphere. It makes it into a breeding ground. No known event has ever happened in Iowa before that's ever been recorded that happened this last week. They called it a PDS, is what they gave it a classification of. A perfectly destructive storm. Essentially, it was the perfect breeding ground for this storm that went through. And we thankfully got lucky. Some other people did not, and our hearts and prayers go out to them. Be mindful. Be prepared. Do look at your signs. Do not wait for the last minute. By no means. Get to your safe place as soon as you know that a storm is tornadic by watching the history of it 20 to 30 minutes before you get issued a severe weather warning or a severe thunderstorm warning. That's when you need to have your escape plan en route to protect yourself. Get to the innermost spot of your dwelling, basement, interior stairwell, interior bathroom. Basement is always best. Storm shelter. And make sure that you have everything you need. Flashlight, medication, water, a way to contact people, a whistle. If cell phone towers are down, have a whistle. It helps first responders find you. Change of clothes. If you're in a place where you can change clothes and you're not wounded, have that in place. If you are in a place where you have to seek interior protection inside your home because you are on one level and you do not have a basement or a storm shelter, cover yourself with a mattress, pillows, a football helmet, anything that, put a pot on your head, for crying out loud. It will protect you. If you have little ones, and I'm talking ones that are still in car seats, take that car seat, put the infant in there, and make sure you lock the handle up and make sure you put the 5-point harness on and buckle them in. The reason I'm saying that is they are tested in crashes that are going to produce more velocity than what the tornado is, that or equal to. It would having that arm up in a car seat for a baby is going to protect debris from falling on the head. Do these things. Have a bag ready to go. Have your safe spot mapped out. Practice with your family. On a nice day, say, hey, we're going to practice this. We got a tornado warning, and start quizzing the kids. What do we do? It's not to terrify the kids. It's no different than having an emergency plan set in motion for having a house fire. How do we escape? What do we do? What is your plan of action? What is your plan of escape? What is your plan of safety? This is very, very important. I will continue to do these lives and keep people safe and cover what I can for the for the viewing area. Now, I'm going to go through all the warnings that are going on right now, and I'm going to share them up to you. If you give me a second here while I get it uploaded. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in, everybody that made comments. I love it. And Kim said it right. She said, have a bag or a couple of bags with lots of chargers, diapers, everything that you can think of and need for a couple days. Absolutely, guys. She's in Oklahoma. She knows. She's been through this stuff more than once. So I am going to zoom out here, and then I am going to screen share this with you guys. And I'm going to cover everything that's going on within the country. So I'm going to pull this up here. And down in Oklahoma right now and into Texas, we have a lot of severe weather going on. So there's a lot of severe thunderstorm watches and warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings around the area of Altus, like I had done before, in Lawson, all the way down leading to Vernon, into the backside of Wichita Falls, from Memphis, just east of Memphis, all the way down past Highway 82 between Seymour and Lubbock. We're going to need to take special care on that as well. Up here in Nebraska, we have a tornado warning and a severe thunderstorm warning, and I believe that's Beckelman. It's on the other side of Trenton, if I believe. Yep, over by McCook. And that is radar indicated. All of these are radar indicated. Nothing is on the ground. Here we have another tornado warning that is going to overpass 83 to the northwest, or excuse me, northeast of Hayes Center in Nebraska, and then to the southeast of North Platte, we have a tornado warning that is moving east northeast, will come into contact of Akanto and Sumner, and depending if she holds together, will come out above, just north of Grand Island. So that is another one. And then we have severe thunderstorm watch, and that severe thunderstorm watch, if you guys look, goes all the way up into North Dakota, all the way down into the north side of Kansas. Big area. And then it goes from the west side of Kansas to the west side of Iowa into close to Des Moines. As far as it goes, that is essentially what's going on right now on radar. We have nothing else to report at this time as far as what watches and warnings are. So I wanted to make sure that everybody got that information as what's going on. Everybody pray for people in Nebraska, the people in Oklahoma, Oklahoma's been hit so hard this year so far already. The Midwest has been a breeding ground. It is a competition, and the easiest I can explain this is, so the way the jet stream is set is you have cold air from the polars in Canada coming down and the warm air from the Gulf coming up. The Pacific waters are warming up, so that shows a sign of El Nino. But one day they're warming, the next day they're cooling. So cooling means El Nino. So El Nino and El Nino pattern effects are starting to fight each other, and the jet stream continues to take. Okay, so if this is the United States, over here you have Oregon, Washington, and that, and over here you have Baltimore, Maryland, all that. So essentially, the jet stream is dipping way down low, coming up through the Midwest, and then trailing off. Storms are going to follow the jet stream. It's going to turn into a breeding ground, and that's why I was actually shocked that the National Weather Service actually created a classification of PDS. That's P as in Peter, D as in David, S as in Sam, perfectly destructive storm or dangerous storm. It is essentially the perfect breeding ground of a massive storm, and its destruction that it holds in the long run and what it produces. And the outlook that is set up is all the way from the middle of Mexico all the way to the tip of the Great Lakes into Canada for this season. The last time that they actually seen this happen was when El Nino and El Niña was coined as a weather pattern for each two, and the year was 1993. Massive flooding, massive damage, massive tornadoes. I want to thank you all for being here. I wanted to go through that one-on-one with you and make sure everything was taken care of as far as letting people know what to watch out for. Being a trained storm spotter and a firefighter, nothing bothered me more than seeing untrained people outside watching it roll in when they should be taking action. I'm here in Iowa, and my heart and prayers go out to the people of Greenfield, Iowa, that have seen many casualties. I watched the storm. I actually have seen footage, and it was honestly a rare cyclonic effect where there were 7 tornadoes fighting around one solid cone, and it'd keep continuously rebreeding them and made it into one huge destructive tornado. Those are the dangerous ones. Those are the ones that can go out sideways and reach miles before you actually get to the core of the storm. The core of the storm will hit you, but that tornado is wound behind it. And it'll whip fast like a bullwhip. Those are very destructive. So, any questions, just let me know. I'm going to continue to watch everything. But in the meantime, stay weather aware, stay prepared, have your stuff ready, get to your safe shelter when you hear that there's a severe thunderstorm warning and you know that the storm has history of tornadic activity. Do not wait. Scientists have fought so hard. Storm chasers in the past have lost lives to bring you this data for an early warning sign. If you get a severe thunderstorm warning that is possible of tornadic activity, you have a phone. Everybody does. play on Facebook, play Candy Crush, but be in your safe place. Until then, Godfather out.